All right, welcome back, everyone. Gentleman's Guidebook, episode 5. I have a special guest with me, Shabana.
Hello.
I don't know how to say your last name properly, so you can hit it out for me.
No, I'm not. I would rather.
Okay, good. Shabana S. All right. She'd rather not.
I go by BANS.
Yeah, she goes by BANS, so we can just call her BANS. We even labeled the episode BANS. Shabana was my old manager, also a co-worker of mine. She's an operations guru. She's a finance magician. If you want to have a business and you want to be really efficient and cut corners in order to get to the same result with more money in your pocket, this is the woman you talk to. I laud her as one of the most impressive people I've ever met in my life when it comes to business. There's 2 women in my life that are very, very big business-minded people. The other one will be coming through shortly. But Shabana I had to have on here. I know it sounds like I'm blowing smoke. It's like every week it's like another thing. But complete inspiration to me, constantly. And it's an inspiration to see her work and pick her brain and call her a friend. So I'd like to welcome my friend to the podcast and just see how you're doing, see what's up, what she's doing now, what her life is like now. She just moved. We helped her move in down the street and far down the street. We're just kicking it now. So how you been?
I mean, that is quite the introduction. My goodness. Like, yeah, I mean, things have been great.
Yeah.
I have a new job, Montrose, cannabis. Yeah, we're in Pickering. First time in cannabis. As I mean, me and you have gone all the way back to hospitality, right? So before I was your boss, we were just on the bar together. But cannabis has been crazy. One of the largest growing industries right now in Canada. It's incredible to see it like not on the streets, you know, to have it be a legal market as well, because I mean, let's be honest, I'm a legacy girl. Like, I used to smoke, you know? To everybody that knows me, like, I work better when I'm high, you know?
Yeah. I know there's a lot of people I don't like you that work better when they're high. Yeah. Cameraman's the same way. He works better when he's high too.
Yeah.
You guys are a little bit different though. You service not the immediate core of the city, but the outskirts. It's like Brampton, Mississauga, and then Durham region.
No.
Am I wrong?
No, we couldn't. We wanted to. That was the plan.
Okay, initially.
That was the plan initially. But that's a big regulatory thing right now, right? So the government, the OCS, they have control over Canada Post. Nobody else can send through Canada Post right now.
Okay.
Right? So we are limited to the area that we're in, but we are different because everything's so curated. So I personally pick everything, me and my boss. It's just me and him picking products, looking into what people like, because we come from a legacy background too, you know, we know what people are talking about, what legacy strains there are, you know, so if you come there, you know you're not getting like a generic Shoppers Drug Mart style cannabis store, you know, where you walk into these one plants and it's like, you're overwhelmed, right? Our place is nice, it's clean, you walk and you know everybody there smokes weed because you're like, I want to do this. Everybody's like, yeah, you gotta try this. You gotta try this. So it's nice, it's homey, it's curated. That
works for me because even that, like I still get mine from legacy street vendors. But it's like places like other dispensaries, like the popular ones within the city. I don't need to name them, but they give me like anxiety. I don't like going in there like having to flash my ID, going to one door and the next door. There was a really cool one we had for a while. It was up at Danforth, and that was perfect for me. It was very one-on-one. Do you find business harder or easier with there being saturation of all these? Like, there's more dispensaries now, I reckon, than there is Tim Hortons.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like, how do you carve out your niche with your client base? Whereas I feel like other people just they kind of open up and see what happens until they get rated.
I mean, you have a lot of these big box stores that are obviously going to take a big part of the market, right? And a big part of the new consumers too that maybe haven't tried cannabis for the first time, so they feel more comfortable going into a place that looks like Shoppers Drug Mart, you know? So it's very like generic. But to people that like I said, in a smaller environment. So we're in Pickering, right? Smaller suburbs. You almost feel more safe walking into a smaller place, like you said, so you have that one-on-one. When it comes to the amount of stores that there is, unfortunately, we have no control over that. Market's going to eventually regulate itself. You know, people are going to pick the places that they like. Whoever survives lives, right?
If he dies, he dies. Is this Rocky?
I mean, it's kind of like restaurants too. It's weird how much cannabis is like the restaurant industry, because the stuff that you're selling too, it can go bad.
Yeah. Right?
You grow it. There's certain ways to grow it, like organic, no pesticides, like all these different things that hang dry, all these hand trim, you know, or you use machinery. I didn't know even half of this stuff when I used to smoke back in the day. Yeah. I never knew that if it was machine cut, then you have a possibility of having mold, and then you gotta throw out the whole batch.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that. It was funny because when I was young, the whole thing was like hydro and cess, and then like now it's like indica and sativa, and I'm like, well, where the hydro and cess go? I don't understand why there's the division, because somebody rudimentary taught me what it was, the differences between the strains. And I guess like hydro is just one that's chemical grown, and cess is
it's like indoor grown. Outdoor.
Oh, okay,
right?
okay.
You can almost go that way where it's indoor outdoor, but they are different seeds as well.
So even back then there was sativa indica.
Even back then there was sativa indica. Back then there was sativa indica. Now there isn't even that. Really? I know, and all the weed people are gonna be so mad at me right now. Like, oh my god, yeah, that's an indica. Like, there's not. I'm gonna be dead honest. Yeah. There was like 9 land races of plants that started in these certain areas, right? Those things got crossbreeded with other things. Next thing you know, okay, this region is now considered an indica growing region. Yeah. Right? Okay, now you have your sativa growing regions, hotter climates. That's why there's sativas, they grow differently. They don't have as much trichomes. You don't get white widows and stuff because they're not trying to protect themselves from anything. It's nice up there, right? Yeah, Jamaican weed. Jamaican weed is, the original strain of it was Breath.
Breath is a name? Like
That's the name of the original.
Okay.
It was Bread. Okay. It got changed to Breath. So, eventually, over 3,000 years of weed being around, everything got crossbred, and everything's a hybrid now. So if you really walk into my store, you're gonna ask me like, hey, I want to do this. I'm like, okay, what do you normally smoke? Oh, I smoke indicas. No, tell me a name of what you smoke. Yeah. Because at this point in the game, you have to almost be that specific. You like haze? Okay, I know you like indica or sativas that are coming from South America. Now I can give you that type of selection, right? Which you don't even know. No. Now I can broaden your horizons and be like, tell me like the names of what you like so far. Yeah. Also, when you walk into our place, if you give us your name, it's up to you, you don't have to. But we keep a record of whatever you smoke. I mean, you're a pothead, right? Like, you're not gonna remember. Half the time I have like 7 different weeds on me. I don't even know what I'm rolling. It's a salad in the tray, you know? I think I threw weed to you one time off the balcony.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Like, I'm gonna fix these so quick.
So everything's a hybrid. Yeah.
Okay, so there's no true anything then anymore.
Not really. Let's be dead honest. I mean, unless you're getting an Acapulco Gold, which Johnny Chronic has an Acapulco Gold out right now, and it's fire. Yeah. But unless you get the original, no, they're all hybrids.
So I don't know the difference, but when I was in BC, everyone would say BC Bud is the best, and even people like different places. When I went to Amsterdam, people were talking about BC Bud in dispensaries there. I don't know if you've been to BC, or do you know what makes their bud different or more potent? I don't know what. For me, when I smoke, the potency's got to be the main, because I like to just draw like 2 big draws, and I just chill. Right. And I want it to be so strong that those 2 draws is like me smoking a full one by myself. Right. You know what I mean?
You want a heavy hitter.
Yeah. The stronger the better. So, because I use it to like decompress and think, so like that's my bag. I don't want anything that's gonna be fall asleep.
Right. So then, but see, you can go so many different ways with that.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're saying that you want a heavy hitter, now I'm thinking, okay, you want something that tastes heavy too, right? So now I'm going to give you a Durban. I'm going to give you like a little bit of African weed because you like that heaviness of it, right? If I give you something light, in your brain, it doesn't hit you as hard.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, like, I know for a fact that mountain ranges and the nutrients that you get from the rain falling down the mountain, going into your water, and then using that in your soil is what creates great weed.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yes.
If you talk about Jamaica, the same thing.
There we go.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Anywhere where you have mountains, expect to have good weed.
Yeah. So I know when you started, you were like unsure. It's a completely different venture than what you were used to. And you basically mastered the service industry at this point. Like I've seen you turn around so many different bars. I've kind of followed your career the whole time. We kept in touch, and then me eventually working with you, or for you, either or. But do you find it difficult to delineate into this new occupation or different venue or industry?
I mean, you just gotta love what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing when it comes to working for me. I've never wanted to do anything if I don't really enjoy it, because then my heart's not in it, and let's be honest, I'm not going to care as much, you know?
Yeah.
When it was, even in the restaurants, I took on each restaurant like it was mine. Like I had money invested in it, you know? So I cared about every single aspect. And I think that's what makes you succeed in anything that you do in life. If you care, you're going to work harder. I never knew all this stuff about weed, right?
And you smoked forever. You smoked as long as I've known you.
Yeah, like I have to focus, right? I have 17 million things happening in my head at one time.
Yeah.
So when I get something that works for me and I can just focus, that's how I'm productive, right? But I never knew what used to make me feel that way.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in the industry and I can learn so much more about it, because nobody ever used to report anything about it too, right?
Yeah.
Everything was hush hush.
It was legal, right?
Yeah. So you go pick up from your guy, and your guy would be like, "Oh, I got this, $65, or I got this one and it's fire and it's $70, you know?" And I'm like, "Okay, give me the $70, just cause, you know? Don't even know what you're smoking."
Yeah.
The best weed I've ever gotten in my life. It was actually, when I was like 19, so 5 years ago. But this guy used to have a medical card, and his wife had leukemia. And he was in the army, he was retired, he couldn't work himself, and he used to grow weed in his backyard and vacuum seal it twice in individual bags and name it for you.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. He had the best pink kush I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
That was our Durham region?
No. I was, where was I? Victoria Park and Lawrence.
Oh shoot, that's like my ends.
I'm in the hood.
Close to my ends.
Hood.
Actually very close to where I grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's interesting. The best weed I ever had was in Jamaica. And we got there, I went with Maria. And it's like so different the way different countries handle things. So we got there, and my dad picked us up. We're coming from the airport, and he's like, "Give me $5. Give me $5." He just goes to like, literally, when I said like a shanty house, it was a shanty house. He just walks over to these boys there. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" Whatever, they hail each other out, and then excuse me, he just puts out his hand. So as much as he can carry in his hand, he just puts a bunch of weed in his hand, and just gives him $5. And then that's what we had, and we had it for the whole trip. We smoked it when we ended up taking, my parents live on the east coast of the island, like close to Montego Bay, or Trivius. We went to Negril for a 5-star hotel, whatever, for a couple days, because she wanted a tan. I don't really need a tan. And we smoked for a dinner one night. So we went down, and we were bugging. They had this like big light in the ceiling, and it's circular. And she thought it was a UFO. And it's like, we were like, Obviously, I'm notoriously known for choking on my food when I eat because I eat too fast regularly. In the service industry, you have to eat on the fly, right?
Yeah.
So I don't actually take time in order to eat and process and digest my food properly. So I'm eating, and I start it gets lodged in my chest. This happens frequently with me. I almost cut out portions of food for me to eat because I always eat fast, and I eat so much when I'm smoking. But it was crazy how fucked up we were. It was like next level. I've never been that high in my life.
The thing though is, weed is all about how your body is receiving it. You have all these different receptors, and that's what takes in the THC, right? When you have different environment around you, you react differently to weed. So when you're in a hot place and you have moisture in the air, right? Weed reacts differently in your body than it would if you were here. So you could smoke the same thing if you're in a different place and have two different reactions.
Okay. That does make sense. That does make sense because you know what? When I was younger, because my dad smokes, and I never wanted them to know that I was smoking. I'd only smoke when I went to colleges because I know I'd be away and I can just like. For me, I'm kind of an overthinker, anyways. So I can actually just like process everything by the water and not worry about having to come home. But that's a different type of thing. My body, I felt body and head high whenever I used to go to colleges. And I could smoke forever. I went to a bachelor party in the summertime and I brought tons of shit with me and I just smoked the whole time. Just one after the other, which is not something I do at home.
No.
Because it's almost like when you go to colleges and drink, it's almost like you keep a base because you're drinking so frequently that you never feel completely drunk. You just feel like you feel like you have a nice buzz, the whole time. Yeah. Same type of vibe. Yeah. So that makes sense. That's very interesting. Yeah. Do you find this is? I don't know if this is going to work with what we're talking about currently, but one of the things I love about you is that you're a beautiful woman, and you work in these positions of power, and you think you know what's coming, but you're a very assertive person, and you know what you want, and you know how you want it done, and you don't ever let anybody see you get upset about something. I've as your friend, have seen you get upset about something, but regular people don't get to see you when you're upset. Do you find that in any industry, it doesn't have to be in your current industry, that you find a lot of issues in such a man-dominated profession, whether it's in the service industry or whatever industry you've had, because you get to a certain point and you're very assertive, that people tend to label you as something? Yeah. You know what I mean? I had the same conversation yesterday with my friend Lindsay, who will be on, I guess, very soon, and she's almost identical to you personality-wise, and how she looks. I mean, this must be a thing with Scarborough people, because she grew up at Victoria Park in Lawrence, so it's very ironic, but same type of thing. She runs into this thing where, she was in service industry as well, but not operations per se. She's marketing, and she can kind of do totally different things. But that aside, do you find that it's an issue with people either underestimating you or taking your ideas and pointing at them as their own and trying to make you like how do you sit there and say nothing about it? Like you're just gonna sit there and be quiet? Yeah. I mean, it's extremely difficult to be a woman working, right? Especially a woman working in a higher position as well. To get into those positions in the first place is the hardest part. I used to do things to further my career while I was working and not necessarily have the education behind it. And that's what encouraged me. Actually, the last place, when me and you worked together, when we were at Jack's, I had a manager say to me, but I'm so good on the bar, so why would I want to be a manager? Yeah. And I was like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, I'm not going to be a bartender for the rest of my life. I mean, I could. But it's not going to happen. So I went back to school. Yeah. And when I went back to school, I went back for event management and hospitality. Yeah. And then now I have the credentials to be like, no, this is a job that I'm applying for, right?
But to go back to not showing your emotions and maybe having to be a little bit stronger, that's where BANS came from.
That's like the moniker to that strong person.
That was BANS, right? I went through a huge transition even in my life just personally, you know, where I wasn't in the best place and I maybe didn't have the best self-confidence. And when I decided to change my life, I was like, no, like I'm going to be a strong, confident person that nobody can tell me differently, right? And it doesn't matter what I do, if I want it, I'm going to have it, right? So BANS came about. I was educated. I came back onto the workforce as a manager, you know. I do have to put on that front of being a little bit of a B word, a bitch, you know, and you get titled as a bitch as well, right? And I've had this conversation with other people because I can walk into a room and say, I want this, 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 and this to happen. People look at me and they're like, whoa, relax, you know? But if a man were to walk into the room and say, I want this, 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 and this to happen, everybody would probably turn around and go like, shit, we gotta do that because this guy means business. You know?
I guess your stature doesn't make it easier either because you're so petite.
Being 5'2" does not help. I wear heels everywhere I go for a reason. I walk a certain way, you know. And you said it to me before. Everybody knows that you're the boss when you walk into the room. I'll never forget when you said that to me when I walked into the restaurant one time. You're like, everybody knows you're the boss when you walk in. I put that on. Right? Otherwise, you kind of get sidetracked. Like nobody pays attention to you. You're just the pretty face in the corner. Oh, who's that? Oh, that's the bartender. No, she's the boss. Right?
It's like window dressing type of thing. Just like a figurehead or like a trophy wife type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what? I'd say, as from the employee side of things, one of your greatest strengths is that you make everyone feel important, and even people you don't really like, you still you give them a sense that not only do they belong, but that they're valued. And I don't find that with most of the people. Like the last place we worked at, I mean, I didn't have a good time working there. It was very difficult for me to like find meaningful relationships with the people I work with. But at the same token, like I was probably the most enjoyable workplace I've ever worked at. Even that being, putting that aside, right? And a lot of that I attribute to you is because the kind of atmosphere that you promote with the places that you work. People are, when people go to work and they have to work with a GM, it's like, fuck, I have to be my P's and Q's, I have to watch everything, breathing on my spine, I can't be this regular and relaxed. With you, I feel like it's the opposite. People want to work with you and they don't care that you're the GM. It's like, sure, shit's got to be done, but at least I'm going to enjoy myself working with my manager. Is that something that you had to cultivate or something that just came very natural for you?
That's something that I cultivated.
Yeah.
Because I had a really good manager when I was 19 that said to me, work needs to be your happy place because you spend more time here than you do anywhere else. And I took that to heart because I've been working since I was 16. And sometimes I used to work 2 jobs. So she was absolutely right that had to be my happy place. So I dropped everything personal at the door and I made sure that everything that I did at work was fun and made sense and just made sense, you know?
I would say another thing that makes your managing style so great is that it's something my dad would always tell me. Like, he'd ask me for something and if I take my time doing it, he'd be like, yo, I asked you for something, go do it. But I'm like, well, you just asked me for it. It's like, you didn't say you want it done immediately. He's like, well, I can just do it myself, but I asked you for it because I want it done now. Like, and I mean, as a kid, you see that lesson, you're like, whatever. One of the biggest things about you is that if something needs to be done, someone's not doing it, you just get up and do it yourself. And that's one of those things where people feel like it almost shames the person that you told to do it because it's like, shit, they asked me to do that and I didn't do it, or either I forgot or I just didn't do it and they're doing it now and they're the boss. So what's going to happen to me now? You know what I mean? But that aspect of your personality is also very, very admirable, because these are the things that people see, and that you might not see it, but people around you see it, and that it rubs off on people. You know what I mean? In most cases, I find even when you left the job we worked at last, a lot of people were upset, like very, very visibly upset, and that's one of those things. I've always said this. I say this to Maria all the time. Like, don't be the person to edify yourself. Let other people edify you. Let people talk you up. Don't never talk yourself up. And I find that you do a really good job with that. It's like, if you are such a person that I know this is not even framed as a question, but you are such a person that people will miss not being around. Is that also something that you've incorporated into all this? 'Cause when we bartended together, very different. You were very snappy at people you just didn't care to get along with. Like, you were like, whatever, don't come around here, don't talk to me ever again. You know what I mean? You've rubbed me the wrong way, so now we're never gonna have a friendship. You know, like, you're very short. So like, seeing you in the managerial role now as someone who's complete opposite of that, because even when people wrong you, you might. Well, I know for a fact, knowing you, that you know these things, keeping in the back of your mind. Then you just
I mean, I'm from Starbucks, you know
folder,
what I mean? Like, you wrong me, you're dead to me.
Like, some of those people think that, like, okay, shit is sweet now because she's talking to me, but no, like, you just kind of honed yourself to be this person. Is that something you actively did, or you just kind of saw other people doing it, or other managers that you had taken stuff from in order to make yourself be like that? Like, to be, I guess it kind of works. This is the first question, but do you find that something that you did in order to help you become the best person in that position as you could be? That's such a long run-on question, statement, answer. I think you're lost right now, but.
So when I started in leadership positions, I made a point to read about what it takes to be a good leader.
Okay, pause that. I love books, and this is going to be a segment here regularly where I read a book every week. I read a book a week, and I show them, what books are you reading in order to get you to that point? Or name at least 2 or 3.
Well, no, see, and here's the thing. I don't read books, I like articles.
Okay.
And it's weird. The reason why I don't like books is because I don't want too much of someone's opinion in my head.
Okay.
Weirdly enough to say it. I'm okay with little snippets, but I don't want 500 pages of you going on about how you feel in my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do read things like, I watch documentaries, right? I watch a lot of reality of cults and what makes people tick.
Yeah,
you know?
Psychology type of things.
A lot of psychology things. And one of the biggest things when I became a leader was what type of leader I wanted to be. And I wanted to be a legacy leader. I want people to remember me for exactly the same reasons why you said. I make a difference, you know, so I may come into a store or a restaurant and our sales are down, and you know that our sales are going to be better by the time I leave, right? I create an environment where people want to be, so I make work their happy place. And I try to build people up as much as possible. So I have to remember that I'm working with people that are very younger than me. This may be their first job, and I never want to deter someone from doing what they can do, you know? So I'm going to build everybody up in any way possible. If someone's having a rough day, come outside and talk to me and tell me what's happening in your life. Because sometimes you just need to let go of that so you can have a better day at work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want to, everywhere I go, I want people to remember me for a reason.
So when you went back to school, what did you take in school?
It's funny because I went to York right out of high school for law and society and sociology. And I ended up switching that to law and society and political science.
Okay.
I never graduated from York, so when I did go into university, York went on strike, and I was paying for school myself because we couldn't afford OSAP. Sorry. And so I worked for all that money, and I lost a good $20,000 the first time they went on strike. So I was still working, I kept working. The next year came around and I enrolled back into school, and they went on strike again, and I lost around 26,000. And that was all my money. So I said, forget it, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And me and a girlfriend, you know her, Corinne,
Yeah.
we took a bartending course, and then it was on like Donkey Kong, you know, like let's make some money, you know.
That's hilarious, because the first bar job I had was with the cameraman, and we just did I think it was a birthday party in Scarborough or Markham or something, and we didn't know anything. Like, I didn't even know different types of liquors, like rum and vodka, basically. At that time, I thought they were the same thing, both clear.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the difference. Yeah, it's like we were like, I don't think there were smartphones back then.
No.
I think we just had a sheet where we were looking at the time, or like asking the people there, like, what do you want me to mix with this type of thing?
Right.
But and then you see like later on, like what I eventually became later on. It's like night and day. That's interesting. I've never asked you these questions in our personal life, so it's very interesting to know these things. And for me, as an uncle with 7 nieces, it's very important for me to impart onto them what it means to be strong and know what you want and be very decisive and stick to what you want regardless of what other people feel. And it's important for me to get these kind of these anecdotes or whatever stories of what you've done and other people have done that I respect, to see if I can try and help my nieces and nephews kind of hone some of those skills so they can become very powerful, strong women in the workforce, or people in the workforce.
Just in life in general too, you know, it's so easy for little girls to fall into this trap of you're a caretaker, you're a wife, you're this, you know, you're going to be this when you grow up. These are the things that you have to do. And then you're also flooded with all this information from the media about what you should look like and how you should dress and how you should talk and how you should act and all of these things as a little girl, especially, right? That can break your self-confidence, and without you even realizing it. And sometimes it's not even until you hit rock bottom and you say to yourself, I don't want to live like this, that you decide to change. Because honestly for me, that's how I was, you know, until I was, I'm going to say 21, 22, I was a completely different person. And you know both of those people. And I'm sure you can see the difference.
Definitely. That's interesting, because I think that also works in the dating world as well, with women and what women are able to do and not do. And I know you're a free spirit when it comes to that. You know what you want and you go for it. How do you feel that the dating world has been now with this whole Cooties 19 thing? Has it been more difficult, less difficult, or people more lazy? I saw some dude, I picked up this girl, and she was going to meet a dude, first date out of second lockdown. She's dressed up, dolled up, talking to her girlfriend on the phone. She's like, oh, I can't wait to go meet this dude, whatever. I pull up to the guy's place, and this is in Etobicoke. The guy's downstairs in a tracksuit. And he looks like he's just ready for the kickback, right? He wants to go Netflix and chill. And she's like looking at her, because she's on the phone with her girlfriend. So I'm like, I didn't say anything the whole conversation. Then as she's getting out of the car, I'm like, yeah, you're spending the night. Then she started laughing. But do you find it's different now than it was before? Because, I mean, you were on a dating scene before too, like.
I'm a serial dater. I mean, I've been single. I can kind of honestly say I've been single for 12 years. I was in a serious relationship for 5 months. Out of those 12 years. You know, other than that, I've been a serial dater. I'm very particular though, so I don't know if a man in a tracksuit would even have me come over in the first place. I'm a little intimidated. I've learned also recently that I may be a little intimidating now.
Yeah.
Which is fine, you know, standards. But I don't know. I think a man puts effort into what he wants. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm realizing as I get older.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have to do with what your environment is. So I don't know if COVID-19 even affects that kind of stuff.
Have you been to a bar since?
Yeah, I've been out.
So have you seen the way the bar dynamic has changed?
Well, you're not allowed to really talk to anybody anymore.
Yeah. So like the socializing things. When I was single, I went on Plenty of Fish for all of like 3 hours. But I've always been someone I'd be like, especially after becoming a bartender, server. Becoming a server bartender changed a paradigm for me personally. And I really just wanted to talk to people. And I find now, especially that not that I'm looking, but you know, people don't talk to each other anymore. I've been to 2 bars since this whole thing's gone down, and it's like people stay in their crews and they socialize with their crew. And other than that, they put their mask on, they go to the washer, go for a smoke, and come back in and chill with their crew.
I think though the people that want to talk to people still talk to people.
Yeah.
You know, because even me and you, like, I went out just recently. I'm talking to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I have my group that I showed up with, but I talk to people. You know, and that's what I mean. I think it's people like that. They're gonna do whatever, no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? I think what you're finding more in the bars now are the people that have been at home this entire lockdown. Mm-hmm. So they're still kind of nervous, right? Now they're finally getting to go out for the first time. Now they're in a bar, but they're in their little circle in the bar. But you'll find people like me that have been out. I've worked during all of COVID. Yeah. You know, I'm not scared of it. Yeah. I've never gotten it, thank God. But you know, I wash my hands. Like that. But I'm out. I talk. Men hit on me regularly still at the bar, so it's not really a thing, you know. Yeah,
we had Shabana here last week for a different podcast. She's the first girl on, so you're officially the first girl on because there was 3 of us last week. Okay. So it's more of a free flow of ideas. We don't get this perspective very often, right? And it's such a big part of, you know, relationships, the men and women into relationships. I find them fascinating. Yeah. Especially with shows like Sex and the City coming back on air. I'm like, what the hell is this? You having these grandmothers coming back on. Their show was popular when there was not even social media. Right. And now you bring them back. It's like you couldn't just come up with a brand new idea.
I hate remakes, man. I hate remakes. And I hate when they make movies from books too. Because I have it in my head already. Really? And now you're going to make a movie or you're going to make a show and you just ruined everything that I had in my head. Yeah. I'm very, you know, I've noticed about myself, I filter a lot of the information that I take in. I don't watch certain things because I don't want to have that type of dynamic in my head. Squid Games, I was going to say Squid Games, right? I do not like the idea of watching people being broke and doing things in order to survive like that. I don't want to see it. Not good for humanity.
Interesting, I love that.
Not going to watch it, you know? Mm-hmm. Don't want to read long books because I don't necessarily want all of the things that you're saying in there. You know? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be too influenced in the wrong way. Yeah. So I really do filter what I watch and what I read.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting. Because I find that with music now as I'm getting older, a lot of the music I used to love growing up was like really aggressive hip hop music. I can't listen to now as an adult. It's like listening to the lyrics and I'm like, oh, this does not gel with who I am as a person. You know what I mean? It's
the baby.
Like, yeah.
The baby is gone for me.
You don't listen to him no more.
After I seen that last video with his girlfriend and all kind of crazy, I'm sorry, but that's what made me realize that I filter things in my life. Yeah. Because I'm not going to watch a person like that. Yeah. I don't want to endorse that. Chris Brown? Yeah. Nah, doesn't happen.
That's very much how I am as well. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Most people, they tend to, it's funny they tend to forget for musicians or things that they like. But things that they dislike is the things that are completely cut off. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's funny that way. Almost everything. I'm like you. Almost everything that I take in, it's got to be to some kind of benefit for my mind or for me as a person, become a better person. And sometimes you have like these. I watch. Well, we learned the word smut. It's something different than we thought it was, but smut TV. I watched one reality show that I've watched, and I've auditioned for it twice. The Real World Road Rules Challenge. I watch it. I've been watching it for. They're on season 37 now, 38.
The Real World still happens.
So they're starting a new Real World, but there's so the original show was Road Rules and Real World, two different shows, and then they have people from both shows come together, do a challenge. So they bring people from different seasons.
Okay. Wait, the challenge?
Yes.
I love the challenge.
So I'm talking about.
Oh my god, me and you would be such a great team on that challenge.
Yeah, I love the show. But then what happened is now that the shows are done, there's no more Real World, there's no more Road Rules. They started taking from like Big Brother,
Big Brother,
all these different places.
Yeah.
And the show is kind of faltered because of it.
Yeah.
Because if you watch like the new show, which is MTV Challenge or Paramount Plus All Stars,
Yeah,
the original
like
cast,
Teen Mom and all that kind of stuff now.
much better. But other than that, I don't really watch, like, there's no love and hip hop in my life. I watch a lot of YouTube, to be honest, and most of it is commentary and stuff. I like a lot similar to like the format that we have here. But I'm of the same mind. But I've never heard anybody else say that. You know, like, the thing you just said is like, especially for somebody like Chris Brown, is most girls are willing to turn a blind eye, like, oh, he beat the fuck out of her face, but that's cool. He makes good music and he takes dick pics all the time, you know what I mean?
I take a personal disliking to anyone that hits women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's pretty gross, to be honest with you. Yeah, I never actually. That's fascinating to me. I didn't expect that from you, but that's really cool to know.
Yeah.
You see, I'm learning things every day.
Yeah. Friends for 12 years,
Yeah.
and you learn something new every day.
So, what else is going on in your life? Tell me, man. How is the move? The new place?
The new place is great. I mean, it's definitely new not being so close to downtown and a nightlife, you know what I mean? Especially when you're by yourself, so I spend a lot of time at home now, you know? But I didn't want to move all the way back to the suburbs.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But yeah, I mean, I think things have been going pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope. You got a church plan?
No?
No. I asked that very question because so many people have been taking off recently. The airport's been flooded over the course of the last 2 weeks. And people going on vacation, and I see even on IG like a lot of people doing different things now, going away. And for my mind, I really do want to go on vacation. Is before this all happened, like I was work 11 months, take a month off vacation, and now it's like, what's the point? You go places and most places aren't even open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm not gonna go there and do the same thing I'm doing here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think there is something to say though for a change in scenery. Like I am gonna go on vacation next year.
Yeah.
You know, you need to get out of the city. Once you start I was in LA last December. So I'm getting all these pictures on my Google of like, oh, this is what you were doing last month, and I'm seeing the pictures and I'm like, you know what? It was nice to get out of the city and get a little warmth and get some sunshine, especially during this time.
Yeah.
You know?
Moving into winter as well.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I want to ask you what you find is your biggest attribute business-wise.
More specific, maybe? I don't.
You want me to specify more? Okay. Well, we talked about a lot of the things that you've done in order to like make yourself the optimum manager or person of interest in that clown sound. So we got shit going on over here. But when it comes to like things that you personally look like, I know those are traits. Like, what was your goal when you went in? Like, what did you want to accomplish? Because I know you're someone who's very ambitious. And for a while, you weren't getting the operation looks that you were looking to get in order to, get to the next level. Like you said, I'm not going to stay here and be a bartender my whole life. So, for me, I'll use an example so it's more like you can kind of go off of that. Like I'm always looking to attain more knowledge on whatever. So right now I'm doing courses on being a broker, and then I'm trying to learn to edit now to do this. But these are completely brand new things to me, and now I've kind of like tailored myself. But this has always been an ongoing thing. So we talk about psychology. I'm someone who didn't study psychology in school. I studied accounting and I studied filmmaking. And in my spare time, I read a lot about philosophy and psychology, and I look at most things I view. I watch, even being a bartender or an Uber driver, I like to see the interaction between people because it helps my writing process. And it also helps me to see how people interact and engage, which helps me just day-to-day interactions, this whole process here, and being able to see when people are trying to put one over on you type of thing, you know what I mean? Because you can see things that, when you see certain traits, you can point them out a lot easier because they're familiar to you. But this is something that I personally just do in my spare time in order to build me up to a level where I can say that I'm kind of the jack of all trades, which is kind of the realm I'm in now, what I'm trying to specify now. That's my ultimate goal, is to specify now. So I have this, and I have the brokerage thing, which I'm going to do for myself, so I don't have to trade time trade time for dollars, which is a huge thing for me. I don't want to do that ever. That's been my goal from the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be working for an hourly wage, because it could disappear. But that's always been in the back of my mind. That's always been a goal going forward. Sorry, Cameron, talk to me. You okay?
Yeah, you're totally fine.
Okay, cool. So I don't know if that helps at all, but like, what on your personal journey are you looking to, I guess, complete or attain, like to reach your zenith, the point where you can say,
where I'm satisfied?
Where you can say, okay, I'm satisfied now, but then I have to pick a new thing to try and hit. And I know for a long time it was the operations thing, which you're essentially doing now, plus more duties.
Sorry.
Yeah, do your thing. I know it's big. It's a big question.
That's a big question. Okay. I always want to be learning. That's one. I always want to be better than I was before. That's the other. But I think the biggest thing in my life that I've come to realize is one of my biggest goals is to be taken seriously. Because I can do anything I want. I just need people to take me seriously.
Yeah.
You know? So once that happens, then sky's the limit.
Yeah. That's short and sweet, but that's what's up. I think that's I guess mine is the same thing. It's very short, but it's still what I want to attain. Because I remember we're both come from Caribbean backgrounds, and my dad would always say, you and your three siblings should put your money together to get a pizza franchise or a Subway or Tim Hortons, and then you could say you own something and you're doing, or become a doctor or a lawyer. These are things that they said early on, right? And when it became evident that I wasn't going to be any of those things, and my brothers and sisters weren't going to be any of those things, it's like, I don't know if there's like a piece of their heart died, especially my dad, but now looking at everyone and what they're doing, and my sister just started her own business, my youngest sister, and she's got a job at the hospital, which I'm very proud of her to start her own business and to get involved in stocks and start thinking like an independent person rather than think like a cog in the wheel, which is fine if you're into that. But if you're someone who's self-motivated, which she is, I think that she should look towards things that will help her delineate her time in order to have more options. My big sister owns her own hairstylist company, and her daughter is doing, she's 21 now, my oldest niece, she's doing courses on lashes so she can help be part of the business with her mom.
Build something, yeah.
And then kind of write her off as help, right?
Yeah.
So it benefits both of them. My brother started a music career. and then I have this. But I'm so proud of all of them in their individual ventures, but it wasn't something that was like taught to us.
Yeah.
Our parents weren't about like doing that. They were like, no, specialize in something and do that, which is like a very old paradigm of thinking.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was ever personified or like put onto you from your mom and your family being Guyanese, Jamaican, like it's kind of the same cultural thing.
Yeah.
Did you find that as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they come from a background where they just want more financial freedom, right? Because a lot of our parents were laborers back from where they came from, right?
Yeah.
So coming here, it's like, oh, if you're a doctor, then you make enough money to be financially free, right? But for our generation, I think specifically for our generation too, right? People younger than us, I'm not necessarily sure if I want to put this label on them, but I think we are striving to be more woke.
Yeah.
You know? And because we came from that generation where it's like you work your ass off to get what you have to get, you don't necessarily have feelings. I think a lot of our generation has woken up to this mind frame now of, wait a second, I do have feelings, I do care, I want to do something I like, I want to do.
Yeah.
You know? Money is money and I'll make money however. But I'd rather do something that I love, like your family, or that keeps me motivated, like us.
Yeah. That's really cool that you phrase it like that, because I find that you're right. And we've never spoken about this before this, but I find that a lot of people within our, what we consider Generation Z? No, X? I don't know.
At this point.
I don't remember what our generation was considered, but the whole thing was like a lot of things that are their issues were commonplace when we were growing up, and just didn't bat an eye at certain things.
Yeah.
And now coming to the realization that those things are pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
And
feelings are a good thing.
And being able to express them. It's like it's a big thing that we weren't able to do before. It was it's like suck it up, you know what I mean?
But you can see it even now in our, like, people that we know having kids, and the kids that are coming up after us, where we're more like, hey, I never got to express how I feel, so I want you to express how you feel.
Yeah.
That may be going a little bit over the edge now, I think.
There's limits.
Right? But look at the difference, right? We were always taught, like, okay, you work, you don't feel anything, just keep going, you're okay, right?
Yeah.
Now we try to combat that, and with our kids we go, no, tell me how you feel. I care how that makes you feel.
Yeah.
Right? Complete difference.
Yeah. So would you find that makes you happy?
What makes me happy?
Yeah. If you're going off that, right? Like, it touches on the whole mental health aspect, which is kind of proliferated now in media and everywhere, right? But I asked you that to say, like, for me personally, I had to come to the realization that money wasn't it. It wasn't going to be it, because money will always come and go.
Yeah.
And no matter what level you reach, you're just going to want more money. If you have no purpose, it's like, okay, is there nothing that fulfills you, then what exactly is the money paying for?
Right.
Am I just here to amass currency? Is that it? And then I just die and the money goes nowhere? It goes into estates or escrow or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd like to delve into people's psyche and see exactly what they find their purpose to be, or what's interesting to them. And I know your job is obviously a big part of it, like not the job itself, but the hustle of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're a hustler, you know what I mean?
What is happiness for me?
Yeah, like for me, I can explain to you so you can like have a view of what I'm saying, because it does seem very vague. But my goal always was, you know, to be somewhere on a beach with my closest friends in huts all along the beach. And we had one long table, like on the beach. And we eat and break bread every day. or once a week, or whatever the case is, right? But we had the time in order to like free flow of ideas and actually live, because you know my personal belief is that 9 to 5, Monday to Friday is not really living.
Right.
It's just basically counting down the days until you expire. And if you look at it through that lens, it's like, okay, well, what am I really doing if I'm just doing this to a means to an end? You know what I mean? And it's almost the same thing you said with the bartending thing. It's like, I'm not trying to be a bartender the rest of my life. And if that's okay, if that you know that from the jump, like, what's the logical progression from that point? Where do I find myself? What makes me happy? Where do I fit in? And when I achieve these things or attain them, what's next? I don't know if I'm going too esoteric with it. You let me know, but I don't know if you've thought that through. But usually, because we both are pot smokers, a lot of those thoughts come out essentially when you're smoking by yourself.
Yeah.
And we both live by our own, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to know if you feel these things and what you view as happiness to you.
I literally talked about this last night.
Oh, word? That's dope.
Literally talked about the word happiness last night. I don't think happiness is attainable. I don't see it as an object or a thing that you can get to. I view this happiness as a feeling that changes, that evolves throughout your entire life. So I'm not living thinking I want to get to this point and I'm good and I'm happy. I look for the moments. It's funny because I always make a joke that my memoir is going to be called Take What You Can Get. and it's kind of around that same premise, right? Like, there are moments of happiness and I take them and I enjoy them and then I just move on.
Yeah.
And tomorrow's a different day and who knows, you know?
Brings good things.
I'm also one of those people where I'm not necessarily scared of death. So I'm not like, I have to do this before I die or you know? I kind of just take every day as it goes and I enjoy moments as they come.
Yeah. I like that. That's like concise. When you live like that, you find that you get more from the days than you would just like kind of getting up thinking you need to attain something because it's said you're supposed to attain this before you die. Or like, I find a lot of people in our given age bracket are like, they had set points and objectives to hit. You know, by this age I want to get married. For marriage I want to have a house. Then a house I want to have kids or 2 kids and then a dog. Then a car and a promotion. You know, there's all these benchmarks to hit. So then what inevitably happens is if you don't hit, you know, 2 or 3 of those benchmarks, you start looking at yourself like, shit, I'm falling behind.
Right.
And even with people I talk to now, people younger, people our age, same type of thing. I try to tell people all the time, like, your only comparison is the person that you were before.
Right.
And I say it a lot on here as well, but it's like, I'm not trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point. Because I don't know what their life is like. I don't know what their upbringing is like. I don't know what kind of money and opportunities and advantages they have in their life. We're not the same. And no one person is the same as anybody else. But I love to hear these kind of things, just how people think and they delve into, because I think about these things frequently. You know, where I am and where I exist in the whole grand scheme of things. If you ever want to think of how small you are in comparison to everything.
Super small.
Yeah, if you look at like what the Earth is in the grand scheme of the universe, it's like, man, like, it just blows your mind. When I think of things like that, or like people that I love, like I mentioned before, I mentioned it constantly, but Tupac did so much in 25 years of being alive. Or like Nipsey Hussle did so much in 33 years of being alive. It's just like, damn, like, that's what you should look to do. Like, those people were running a race against themselves. They weren't running a race against their, well, maybe Tupac was, but against their death, you know what I mean? I love that. I love that point of view, you know. That's cool. I like that. The answer, you you had this conversation yesterday. It's bonkers to me. So I was just having a conversation about you yesterday, talking about the same type of different types of things, and then obviously your podcast is coming today. I'm like, that's crazy that we're talking about it.
I like to live spontaneously.
Yeah.
And because I live spontaneously, I have such amazing stories.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know.
You do have quite
I could go on and on and on with all the
stories.
crazy things that have happened to me. And it's because I don't put those timelines on my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Your family's they're okay with what you do too.
Yeah, I mean, it's me, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any worse. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of just take me as I am. And those are the people that I have in my life, too. Like, I have a small circle.
Yeah.
But the people that I have in my life take me for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing, too, right? I'm always going to be genuine. Like, I will never say anything behind your back that I haven't already said to your face.
Yes, this is a true story.
You know? But I have the balls to say it to your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And that's part of the way that I grew up, too.
Yeah.
My family's always like, that's what you're wearing? Sure. You know what I mean? So, Caribbean family, like, always honest, but the people most honest to you, I think, love you the most.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
As usual, we do at the end of these shows. What advice could you give to a man? It could be anything. It could be dating advice. So what not to do when approaching you, or anything. It could be anything. Like, well, for instance, I'll go first, and I'll say what I want to say is an example. For me, my advice to you today would be, she might say this, so I'm not going to say that, but I would say find what your end game is. Find out what you truly want to accomplish as a person, and then work towards that. Don't work towards something that's attainable, like a tangible, like an item or a trinket or something like this. Because those things will come and go, and once you attain them, it's like, what's next? Try to find some kind of self-fulfillment that gets you to a point where you can just piggyback that and perpetuate something new and different. That would be my piece of advice.
Okay. I think my piece of advice, and this can go for anybody, but just always be yourself. Doesn't matter if people like you, don't like you, think differently than you. If you're always yourself, then you're always going to go on your path.
Yeah. I like that. On that note, next week we have Jamie Louiso coming through, who's also a weed aficionado. He works in the industry as well. He said some big news. I'll let him talk about it next week, but I want to thank you for coming here and being with me. I want to let you know that you inspire me, and you always have, and you continuously will inspire me. And I'm very, very happy to have you as a lifelong friend. There's a lot of people that came into my life that I thought would be there forever, and you're a person I never thought would be there forever, and you are here, and you've been here, and have been a staple for a very long time. So I'm very appreciative to have you in my life. And thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
All right, peace. See you guys next week.